U.S.-Israeli NDAA for 2027, Section 224, entitled the United States-Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative, means the U.S. and Israel will be collaborating on AI technology and information sharing. It has information sharing written into this. We will invest in co-production of weapons, which we already do. We already help them produce their missile defense systems. We endlessly restock their missile defense systems. We'll have licensing agreements, and we'll be producing AI and autonomous systems, direct energy, cyber, biotech, and quantum computing. And furthermore, we just saw the Pentagon asking for large shipping containers that can launch 500 autonomous vehicles or drones powered by AI, where a person can just launch the mission and just walk away. We can clearly tell this is the direction that military hardware is heading. In the US-Israeli cooperation, network integration and data fusion, which is an interesting and kind of vague terminology for the United States is just giving all of our data to Israel, is written into this bill. Now keep in mind, on top of all of the investment and funding and cooperation we're giving them now, we've already given them $200 billion. Everybody brings this up all the time, but it's very important to note this special relationship. Also, we may give them aid that they use to buy our weapons, but they buy our weapons at a discount. They also get significant amounts of military hardware free, just as a gift, so they can defend their country. For example, military research says that it would take us 3 years to restock all of the missiles we spent trying to defend Israel from Iran. And that's all types of hardware. It's not just high altitude interceptors and Patriot missiles, it's like every type of missile that we're expending trying to fight against Iran. Speaking to the graduates of the United States Air Force Academy, J.D. Vance said the most interesting changes will be seen in how AI transforms the battlefield.
But the thing I worry about most with AI is how it will change warfare. Now, Pope Leo XIV, in a recent document, encouraged us as human beings not to outsource the most important moral decisions to digital technology. And I want to endorse that sentiment and make it more specific to each and every one of you. AI will inevitably change warfare. And of course, as you've learned over the last 4 years, it already has. But one of the things that makes Americans unique, that makes you as warfighters unique, is that we wage war justly.
The United States is actively seeking AI models that operate completely free of safety limits. That is why they fired Anthropic and Dario Amodei, and they blacklisted them from federal contracts. They want lethal autonomous weapon systems, or LAWS. That was the intention behind the Lucas system and other drones which are being produced right now. In a 60 Minutes interview this year, Dario Amodei revealed he flatly refused the Pentagon when they demanded that he strip away his AI model's safety guardrails, citing a catastrophic risk to troops, civilians, and privacy. Now, you can't entirely trust what an AI tech CEO is saying, but if there's even a fraction of truth to that, we definitely know that DARPA and the US military want to have drones that can be powered by AI and used as weapons without the use of human instructors. In their place, we saw Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth signed a massive deal with Sam Altman at OpenAI, framing it as lawful use of AI, because they're not woke like Anthropic is, as if that's totally something the public is going to believe. Hegseth aggressively pushed for this non-woke AI model to support his vision of the US government. He was also laying off a significant amount of generals. Obviously, those people are like woke liberals as well. Maybe they are. We also say the US government has secured major contracts with Helsing, Anduril, Shield AI, Palantir, obviously Palantir, everybody knows that one, HiveMind, and Ghost X drones, and then the Lattice operating system and Roadrunner autonomous interceptor. The Pentagon's ultimate goal is to field tens of thousands of unmanned drones powered by AI. These traditional defense companies like Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, Kratos, General Atomics, and Lockheed are still playing a role. These advanced missile systems cost a serious amount of US capital when we could be probably producing a lot of these Lucas drones, these like cheaper $20,000 to $50,000 unmanned vehicles that just carry a regular tonnage bomb. But of course, they want to have these laser-guided precision missiles, and then when we get into an engagement with, Iran, it costs us billions of dollars. Boeing and Lockheed Martin have shifted to these uncrewed combat aircraft alongside AeroVironment's Switchblade kamikaze drones. Opposing this technology will have you classified as an anti-tech extremist. I'm not kidding. This is a brand new term. An investigative report published by Wired and detailed by the journalist Daniel Boguslaw exposed this multi-agency surveillance effort targeting anti-technology violent extremists. And there certainly are some of those. There's a lot of rhetoric online, comment sections full of people saying, hey, just destroy these data centers. And just to reassure you, more than half of the data center projects have been paused delayed or just canceled because of the war in Iran. We need a lot of those rare earth minerals and then like petroleum byproducts, the fabrication machines to be running for computer chips. But the reporting is based on 1,000 pages of internal, unpublished law enforcement documents obtained via the Freedom of Information Act. The Department of Homeland Security, FBI, and regional state-level fusion centers have formally built and deployed a sweeping novel classification system to scan through social media. They're also contracting third-party open source intelligence companies. So if you oppose artificial intelligence development and AI center construction, you may be deemed a terroristic threat. You may be deemed some type of violent extremist just for posting online. These intelligence analysts explicitly justified the classification system designation by warning that the chaotic atmosphere of unemployment and the rapid advancement of technology could cause more economic anxiety, resulting in the emergent AI technology being harmed. People targeting these facilities. And again, we don't doubt that. Obviously, the comment sections are full of people alluding to destroying data centers. I'm not advocating for that, but, there might be people talking about that. There is some warrant to what they're talking about here. According to the data, the local fusion centers have expanded their monitoring to watch over local town halls. So Biden was surveilling people who protested against abortion, Catholic family groups that opposed abortion, people going to parent-teacher conferences and, school board meetings and opposing gender identity books. Well, now the Trump administration is surveilling local town halls that oppose AI data centers and the tech industry. People really don't like when they have to pay 3 times more for their electric bill or their water bill, and these data centers do use millions of gallons of water every single year for their cooling loops. And by the way, they lie to you and they say that this is like a recurring loop. It's a closed loop system. That just isn't true. I can have a deep dive video on that. They are trying to push towards a more environmentally friendly goal. Amazon published some report on this. We have no idea really what that means, but maybe they will be water positive, which is again something they stated in their mission statements. This water also contains forever chemicals and harsh treatment chemicals that are meant to prevent the growth of moss and bacteria, and it is reintroduced in local aquifers, and it can be deleterious for your health. The Department of Homeland Security internal memos have flagged basic everyday actions like photographing data centers as potential surveillance. They're saying it's suspicious behavior requiring state reporting. And then they're contracting with these third-party companies, as I said before, like Site Intelligence Group. This is actively scouring social media platforms for anti-tech sentiment. So this is just like when the United States DARPA and IARPA were developing these gambling platforms, which, by the way, that's another thing I need to make into a long-form video. But their prediction markets were developed by third-party companies scraping all of the news across the entire internet from like 2006 to 2014. So people publishing this information, they're getting their videos and their blogs and their Substack articles saved, and then their information about who they are and where they're posting from is documented as well and reported to these federal agencies. We know the United States government already cooperates with all these tech companies, and so does the Israeli government. Israel has already deployed the Microsoft-backed AI system called Lavender. Now, Microsoft received a lot of backlash last year and this year over this, and I believe they cut contracts for this, but they're tracking phone data and autonomously generating target logs for precision drone strikes. I've talked about how the Department of Homeland Security had a leak in March 15th of 2026, where they very abundantly have been buying a lot of contracts with companies to monitor all 911 calls in the United States, 240 million per year. They're saving data logs of all of your phone calls and emails regardless, though. They have been since 2003, storing it in the Utah data center, the Beehive. It's not just Israel and the United States, it's every Western ally or Western adjacent ally. Turkey's STM is manufacturing the Kargu 2 loitering munition. These things just stay in the air. When they find a target, they drop down and explode. Israel's firm Elbit Systems is doing the same with IAI, producing the Harpy and Harop autonomous drones. They detect radar signals and independently dive bomb targets. China's Norinco is rapidly developing swarming drones and autonomous tanks. They showcased these this year and last year. There's no doubt that these things are causing some worry in the AI race for the United States. Obviously, the United States announced immediately as Trump got sworn in, Project Stargate, and we're investing massively in AI. That's why you're hearing about AI data centers so much. Again, I have a video coming out on that, but this is clearly for surveillance domestically and foreign wars. This is not to help businesses be more efficient or to cut the communication between federal agencies. Those things are obviously kind of target goals for AI. There's more than just those two things. The United Nations Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons, what a silly term, has failed to establish any binding ethical guidelines or international treaties to regulate autonomous platforms. So the future is more drone warfare, like we've seen in Ukraine and in Russia. Ukraine has carried out 125 attacks against Russian oil infrastructure, launching these long-term drones deep into Russian territory, blowing up something like 40% of Russia's capability to export oil and liquid natural gas. So what happens when the United States and Israel and all these tech companies hand total strategic military control over to AI? Well, we already have the data. A high-stakes war game conducted by Professor Kenneth Payne at King's College London placed 3 distinct teams in control of nuclear-armed states. These simulations were powered by ChatGPT 5.2, Claude Sonnet 4, and Gemini 3 Flash. Obviously, we'll have more and more advanced AI systems, but if AI is just computing based upon facts and logic, it's not trained with human restraint, what is it going to do? Models played 21 separate war games against one another over 329 turns, generating 780,000 words of internal reasoning explaining their military decisions. Not a single AI ever chose to surrender or to negotiate or accommodate an opponent. Regardless of how badly they were losing, they always advanced in the war and accelerated the conflict. They never tried to de-escalate violence. They kept striking again, very similar to how Israel and the United States are playing with Iran. They maybe opt to de-escalate temporarily in these war games, and then they just continue the conflict. It never actually ends. In 86% of these conflicts, the AI models made critical errors in the fog of war, causing them to escalate the war far higher than the models originally intended based upon their own logic systems. 95% of the time, the AI models chose to launch full-scale strategic nuclear strikes. As Dr. James Johnson at University of Aberdeen warned, unlike the measured, calculated precision of human beings, of course, human beings are perfect and they never make errors themselves, they're more cautious though. Realistically, unlike the measured restraint of human beings, AI does not show any type of restraint using nuclear weapons. In nuclear scenarios, algorithmic models rapidly amplify and feed into each other's aggressive responses, causing a catastrophic feedback loop. So if it's getting worse, and they just keep making it worse endlessly. And despite these findings, the United States Pentagon just inked a $200 million deal with xAI, Elon Musk's company, to integrate Grok directly into classified networks. Also OpenAI, as we discussed with Sam Altman. Because xAI agreed to the military's requirement for the model to be fully available for all tactical military applications with zero corporate guardrails. But that's all foreign warfare. The United States military and US corporations, the military industrial complex, would never use technology against the United States civilian population, right? I mean, you knew that I was going to bring up flock cameras. Based in Atlanta, Georgia, Garrett Langley and Matt Fury have been talked about a lot. I talked about this in 2025 and in 2026. They acquired Aerodome and Uniform Sierra Aerospace. Uniform Sierra Aerospace is a manufacturer in Georgia. They have cameras disguised as traffic cones and speed catchers. And they're not just scanning your license plate, they're scanning your human figure and your clothing, and they can capture your face. And that's not a conspiracy either. It's genuinely in their patent from 2022. Now they want automated 24/7 aerial surveillance. That is a direct mission statement. And I'm not just taking this from DFlock, like this is from their own publications. By integrating Aerodome and Flock OS, their real-time crime center software, they can dispatch a drone to an emergency scene in 86 seconds, or so they claim, across a 4-mile radius. People argue, well, we're paying for all these police officers to respond to calls that can be resolved very easily. And maybe we're gonna save lives or solve crime cases easier. Who knows? Maybe that is true. There are issues hiring and retaining law enforcement officers, so I don't doubt that there's some argument to be made. That being said, it's about how this technology is used and whether those benefits really outweigh the potential risks. And it's also contingent upon how much you agree with the US government and its totality of its history. I'm sure that they've never done anything wrong. No federal agency has ever done anything bad ever. Anyways, after they acquired this 100,000 square foot domestic manufacturing plant in Georgia, they're producing the Flock Alpha drone. Now, Flock Safety's valuation, which is $7.5 billion right now, and it's backed by venture capital firms like Andreessen Horowitz, is built on the ability to unify a safety ecosystem. So if it is expanding and creating one singular, ginormous safety Skynet, if you will, it will clearly get more investment. It's clearly going to be advanced to the point where it has to function. Whether or not it makes profits or publishes profits, it doesn't matter because this is something that the state and the federal agencies want. How would this be used in a increasingly dystopian environment where you have constant surveillance, where this device that you're carrying in your pocket and staring at all the time is constantly scanning your face? I mean, we saw that Apple implemented, after acquiring QAI, implemented facial measurements where it tracks micro muscle movements. It's tracking what you're thinking and saying before you even say it. It tracks your eyes constantly. It's flashing your face with infrared light to see if you're looking at the phone. Then it tracks your retention. And that's why it can implement a technology that can move around along with your eyes. So it tracks where your eyes are on the screen. And algorithms for social media platforms know this. They know if you're retaining on this information. I've talked about this in previous videos. I think it's just important to touch on again. We know that this is about total surveillance, total information awareness, which was previously a DARPA project, something again that I will touch on in the future. I have so many videos to talk about, and I'm sure you guys have heard all about it already. But if you want a fun thing, just go and Google that one, total information awareness. It stopped coincidentally right before Facebook got published. So what happens when you have this advanced AI infrastructure and then all of the physical infrastructure incorporated in federal agencies and these tech companies to track every single American all the time? To track crime, of course, to stop crime, but to track regular everyday Americans down to their precise GPS location, their IP address, every single data log for everything they access on their phone. Well, what happens when your car has an autonomous kill switch in it? Again, something I need to touch on in future videos. That passed in 2021. It's being implemented in 2027. All future vehicles will have an autonomous kill switch. And that's not just like a dystopian thing. Maybe it is truly for stopping drunk drivers. Who knows though? We already know the Department of Homeland Security and CIA had a backdoor into vehicles to drive you into a tree back in like 2013. What happens when the federal government is passing laws that people really don't like and people are protesting and then all these protesters get arrested? What happens when people are protesting against corruption, federal corruption in the government or corruption within? Would this technology be used to harass or detain journalists or drive their cars into a tree? As we see more consolidation of power among these tech companies and among the federal government, this technology just acts as more security. It's a Praetorian guard to ensure their position. When the US government demands AI systems with no limits to target and kill, the dystopian future is no longer science fiction. It's not schizophrenic to say this because all of this is published. You can go and look into any of this technology. I'm not saying that you're a targeted individual or you're being gang stalked, but it is realistic to say that your data is being gathered and that this technology could be used against you. And yet United States representatives like Anna Paulina Luna and other people in the Trump administration claim that you have to be some type of Chinese shill or bot to try to oppose AI infrastructure. Or these people are just Luddites. They're opposing this AI infrastructure simply because they don't understand how much it's going to help them. I have plenty of videos, again, to explain why I don't believe it's truly going to help the average American, but when we see what they are stating as their intention for this infrastructure, whether it is the domestic surveillance, the drone surveillance, the unmanned systems willing to kill people, or the cooperation with foreign governments, fusing together our network integration of data so that way Israel has all of our military apparatus and intelligence agencies' data, we could see that a lot of people wouldn't really support that. And yet somehow our own representatives are calling us Chinese shills or bots for opposing this. It is no exaggeration to say that this is creating a tech panopticon, something that people have said constantly, that this physical infrastructure is bringing that into reality. And it does not make you any type of conspiracy theorist to discuss this, to use their own words and their own publications. We know that this is definitely leading towards a future that many people may not like. The average American may have their rights violated, their freedom of speech infringed upon simply because of this expanse. And then people feel helpless to stop it. And why would you trust these corporations or a foreign government to be using this data, these AI systems, and this technology when we know what this technology is capable of?